Protect is a whistleblowing charity who offers confidential advice line support for more than 3,000 whistleblowers each year who have encountered malpractice or risk of wrongdoing in the workplace. Laura Fatah, the policy advisor for Protect, joins me now to discuss the challenges the organisation and workers face during the coronavirus pandemic. So Laura, thanks very much for your time and expertise here this morning. Can you just give me an overview of the services that are provided by Protect and why such an organisation is needed here in the UK?
Yes, certainly. So Protect is a whistleblowers advice charity. So primarily we run a free advice line that anyone can call at any time to receive advice if they're thinking about raising a whistleblowing concern, if they have already raised a concern, or if they're not really sure what their options are. We offer people advice on their legal rights under the Public Interest Disclosure Act. In Northern Ireland, it's the Public Interest Disclosure Order. And they're often a little bit of a tricky pieces of legislation to navigate. So really, that's where the value of Protect comes in. It's helping people to see what choices are available to them and make sure that they're acting in their own best interests as well.
And how has the COVID-19 pandemic then impacted on the kind of landscape of employer and employee relationships, particularly when it comes to maintaining fair and just working standards? With the PPE narrative that's came out, would a whistleblower, would someone within those health and social care settings, would they have had to have came out either internally or publicly and raised the profile of the lack of PPE equipment for our health and social care workers?
Yes, certainly. PPE is a huge issue, and a lot of people are whistleblowing on that in a number of different ways. I think that was one of the main trends that we saw straight away maybe through the sort of mid to end of March. It was a real push with healthcare workers seeking advice, not sure where to go. And then, of course, that transformed into a second wave of concerning care homes. So we've really seen the crisis kind of go through different stages. And now we're getting to the stage where we're seeing lots of calls around furlough fraud. And this is another kind of wrongdoing, which again is draining resource from the government and is actually, stopping our ability to be able to provide resources for these services, like being able to buy more PPE, etc. So, yeah, there's a lot of challenges. There's also the coronavirus bill, which was passed, which changed the sort of legal responsibilities of some public bodies in terms of limiting them down a bit more so that they could sort of continue to work and cope with the crisis. There's been a couple of challenges to that in the education system. So there's all sorts of things happening, from sort of the legal responsibilities that have changed in some places to physical challenges of resource, and then to people abusing government schemes which have been set up to try and help through this challenge. So there's an awfully tough landscape for whistleblowers at the moment, Connor.
Can you just expand a bit more then on these developing stories of furlough fraud?
I mean, an awful lot, some of it quite shocking, actually. So we've had some calls on the advice line when people haven't even been made aware that they're on furlough until they actually receive their paycheck. And then they're seeing that, they're only receiving 80% of their money, and technically they shouldn't really have been working. People are also a little bit concerned that if they obey an instruction from their employer to go in while they're on furlough, they could be complicit, which is a really big worry for a lot of people. So I think if you are in that situation, please do get in touch. Call Protect. Our advice line is free, and it's open 5 days a week. So do check our website and get in touch if you need advice on that. Some of the other issues we've seen are people being asked to come in on a voluntary basis or being given kind of disingenuous training to complete, as these are some of the loopholes, these are some of the reasons which people can go into work for. So yeah, it's quite shocking, really, Connor. I think we all understand that this is a really difficult time for small businesses, but at the end of the day, if people are abusing this scheme, then it just means the scheme isn't going to be available for others and for a longer period of time. So yeah, it's definitely a big issue, and it seems to be happening in a various different ways how people are abusing this scheme. So please do get in touch with Protect if you need advice on that, because fraud against the government is obviously a public interest issue.
And can you tell me more about the whistleblower bill that Protect has been working on now for quite some time, and why is such a bill required in today's sort of make-up and economy and in terms of employer relations, and how can such a bill improve the safety and well-being of workers across all fields of employment?
Yeah, so we've been working on our draft whistleblowing bill now since October. Some of the main changes that one of the biggest changes that we're seeking is to increase the amount of people that will actually have legal protection. As you mentioned there, we are working in quite a diverse landscape of different employee-employer relationships. And often some people find that they're outside of the scope of the law when they have really, valuable information that they need to raise, and they may well be in need of protection. So one of the main things Protect is working towards is to ensure that everybody who needs this legal protection will actually be able to apply and have it. I think one of the biggest cases recently we had was where a judge actually found themselves outside of the legal protection of the law, which doesn't seem to be a particularly good situation for the public or for that whistleblower. So what we'd really like to do is make sure that everyone can access their legal rights when they need to. We'd also quite like to make the legal aid available for any whistleblowers, because currently there isn't any. So it's a really big ask, actually, to say you have to kind of go forward against your employer, who probably has access to a lot more funding than you do, and take them to court, which is it's a very big ask for somebody to go through and do that, especially after they've already raised their concerns. So some of the provisions in our law would set standards for employers and for regulators, so that whistleblowers would have an ability to hold those individuals, to hold those companies to account to the standards they're supposed to meet, rather than having to go to court to enforce their legal rights, which is obviously not the most ideal option.
And just before I let you go, Laura, do you foresee then the demand for your services increasing as this pandemic continues, and as all forms of public life and all of the kind of jobs and occupations that will begin to open and try to return to normal?
So every conversation with Protect is covered by something called legal privilege. So it's the same standard as speaking with a lawyer. We are regulated by the SRA, the Solicitors Regulation Authority. And we have encrypted systems. So all of our information and data is entirely confidential. Our objective is to provide legal advice which will serve the person's interest, the whistleblower's interests first, above anything else. I've definitely seen an increase. We've seen a massive spike in the volume of our calls. We are doing our very best at the moment. We're able to speak to everybody and answer every call that we have. So we really hope that we can continue to do that. But yeah, I think it's so important that we're there, because all of the advice services, all of the free, supportive services, all of the help, many of the helplines are kind of shutting down or very much reducing the amount of advice that they're able to provide. And actually what we're seeing is an uptake in the demand for these services at this time. So it is quite a critical moment, in terms of Protect's ability to provide advice to everybody who calls us, and in terms of whistleblowing in society. This is a moment where it's really key that leaders listen to whistleblowers and respect them, and that people feel that they can raise concerns when they see something wrong.
Well, what would be the key information then for people to get in touch with your free call helpline, email, website, etc.?
So we're open Monday to Friday. We have slightly reduced hours, so please check the website protect-advice.org.uk. Our advice line number is 0203 117 2520. We also have email, so you can email whistle@protect-advice.org.uk.
Well, Laura, thanks very much for your time and expertise today, and we wish you all the best with the very important work you're doing during this challenging time. So thanks again.
Thanks very much, Connor. That's great.